The stars hung like distant jewels against the blackness of space as Commander Alice Warren stared out the viewport of the UEA Defender. Her reflection showed a woman with tired eyes and short brown hair that hadn't been properly combed in days. The war had taken its toll on everyone. She turned away from the viewport and walked toward the briefing room. The metal corridors of the ship felt cold and empty. Most of the crew was either at their posts or trying to catch some sleep between shifts. Alice hadn't slept well in weeks, not since they lost the Arcturus colony. The door to the briefing room slid open with a soft hiss. 5 officers were already seated around the oval table. Digital maps and reports floated above its surface, painting everyone's faces in a blue glow. "Commander on deck," called Lieutenant Jack Miller, the youngest of the group. Everyone started to stand. "At ease," Alice said, waving them back down. "We don't have time for formalities." Admiral Peter Collins nodded at the empty seat beside him. His gray beard was neatly trimmed, but the deep lines around his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. "The situation has worsened, Commander Warren." Alice sat down and pulled up the latest battle reports. The numbers made her stomach sink. 3 more colonies lost, 17 ships destroyed, thousands of lives gone in less than a week. "The Draxar are pushing toward the Tau Ceti system," said Captain Greg Foster, pointing to a flashing red dot on the star map. "If they take that, they'll have a clear path to Earth." Alice zoomed in on the map. "What forces do we have there?" "Not enough," replied Major Susan Kelly, the tactical officer. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun. "Maybe 20 ships and half of them need repairs." "We're sending reinforcements," Admiral Collins said, "but it will take at least 3 days to gather what we can spare." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what 3 days meant. By then, Tau Ceti might already be lost. Lieutenant Miller cleared his throat. "Sir, what about the Spectre?" The other officers exchanged glances. Alice saw a mixture of reactions, annoyance, amusement, and in one or two faces a flicker of hope quickly hidden. "The Spectre?" Admiral Collins raised an eyebrow. "You mean the ghost ship? The fairy tale?" Miller's cheeks reddened, but he didn't back down. "Sir, with respect, there are too many consistent reports to dismiss it entirely." Alice leaned forward. "Lieutenant, the UEA Spectre was an experimental warship that vanished 15 years ago during its first test flight. If it still existed, don't you think it would have shown up by now? When Earth needed it. Maybe its mission took it far from our space," Miller suggested. "The reports I've gathered mention sightings at the very edge of explored territory." "Captain," Foster snorted. "Reports from freighter crews who've been in space too long and miners who drink too much." "That ship was my brother's project," Admiral Collins said quietly. The room fell silent again. "He died when it disappeared. Trust me, Lieutenant, I wish the stories were true. I wish we had a super-advanced warship with technology that could turn this war around. But wishes don't win battles." Miller lowered his eyes. "Yes, sir." "I apologize." Alice felt a pang of sympathy for the young man. He was fresh out of the academy when the war began. He had never known the optimistic, expanding Earth alliance that she had joined years ago. All he knew was retreat, loss, and the desperate fight for survival. "Don't apologize for hope, Lieutenant," she said. "Just don't let it cloud your judgment." The meeting continued with discussions of supply lines, evacuation plans, and defense strategies. None of them looked promising. The Draxar Dominion, an alliance of 7 alien species, outnumbered Earth's forces 5-1. Their technology was more advanced. Their determination to wipe out humanity seemed unshakable. 2 hours later, as the officers filed out, Alice noticed Miller lingering behind. "Something on your mind, Lieutenant?" she asked. He hesitated. "Commander, I know how it sounds, but I've been collecting these reports for months." He handed her a data pad. Not just from drunk miners, but from military personnel. Respected captains, scientists. Alice took the pad reluctantly. And they all claimed to have seen the Spectre? Or detected it? or received strange transmissions that match no known ship identification. Miller's eyes were earnest. I know Admiral Collins doesn't want to hear it because of his brother, but what if there's a chance, even a small one? I'll look at your data, Alice promised. But don't get your hopes up. After Miller left, Alice returned to her quarters. The small room felt even more cramped with the weight of today's reports pressing down on her. She kicked off her boots and sat on her narrow bed. Almost against her will, she activated Miller's datapad. Might as well see what had the young officer. So convinced. 3 hours later, she was still reading. The reports were indeed from credible sources. A science vessel that detected unusual energy readings. A patrol ship whose sensors briefly picked up a vessel of Earth design in a region where no Earth ships should be. A colony that received a garbled transmission with fragments of old Earth Alliance military codes. Separately, each incident could be explained away. Together, they formed a pattern that stretched across 15 years and thousands of light years. Alice didn't believe in ghosts, but she was starting to wonder if the specter might be something more substantial than a story told to boost morale. Her thoughts were interrupted by the ship's communication system. Commander Warren, urgent message from Proxima B colony. Put it through, she said, setting aside the datapad. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a young woman with blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her uniform identified her as a communications specialist. Commander, this is Samantha Hughes from Proxima B Outpost. I need to report a strange signal we received 6 hours ago. Alice straightened. What kind of signal? That's just it, ma'am. It used frequencies we haven't used in the military for at least a decade. And it was encoded with a classification system that was retired around the same time. A chill ran down Alice's spine. Were you able to decode it? Samantha nodded. Yes, ma'am. It took some doing, but the message was simple. Just 3 words. Spectre coming home. Alice stared at the young woman's image, then glanced at Miller's datapad still lying on her bed. When did you say you received this? 6 hours ago, ma'am. And you're only reporting it now? Samantha looked embarrassed. I wanted to be sure before I passed it up the chain, ma'am. These old codes are tricky and I didn't want to cause a false alarm. But I'm certain now. Send me the original signal and your decryption work, Alice ordered, and don't discuss this with anyone else yet. After the communication ended, Alice sat in silence. The Draxar were closing in on one of humanity's last strongholds. Earth was running out of ships, out of weapons, out of time. And now, like a whisper from the past, came a message that might be nothing more than a cruel hoax, or might be the one thing they needed most, a promise of help from a ghost. Alice picked up the datapad again and began to read from the beginning, searching for any clue she might have missed. Outside her viewport, the stars continued their cold, distant watch over a humanity fighting for its survival. Captain Ryan Davis stood on the bridge of the UEA Resilient, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their shaking. Through the main viewport, he could see the other ships of the human fleet, 37 vessels in total, all that could be gathered to defend the Tau Ceti system. His ship was one of the newest, and even it bore battle scars from 3 previous engagements with the Draxar. Status report, he said, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his stomach. Civilian evacuation is at 64%, replied his first officer, Kate Wilson. Her dark skin looked ashen under the bridge's harsh lighting. But the Draxar fleet will arrive before we can get everyone out. Ryan nodded. They all knew this was likely a one-way mission. Hold off the enemy long enough for as many civilians as possible to escape, then retreat if they could, or die trying. Incoming transmission from the UEA Defender, called out Laura Green from the communications station. It's Commander Warren. The main screen flickered, and Alice Warren's face appeared. Ryan could see Admiral Collins standing behind her. Captain Davis, Alice said, the enemy fleet will reach your position in approximately 30 minutes. 200 ships at last count. Ryan kept his expression neutral. 200 against 37. Even worse odds than he'd feared. We understand the situation, Commander, he replied. We'll buy as much time as we can for the evacuation ships. Admiral Collins stepped forward. The rest of our forces are on their way, Captain, but they won't arrive for at least 2 more days. What went unsaid was clear. By then, it would be too late for Ryan and his people. They would be fighting a delaying action, nothing more. We received your report about the strange signal from Proxima B, Ryan said. Any update on that? Alice and the Admiral exchanged glances. Nothing concrete, Alice said carefully. But we've detected similar signals from 3 other outposts now, all using the same outdated frequencies and codes. Keep us informed, Ryan said, though he wasn't sure what difference it would make. Resilient out. The transmission ended, and Ryan turned to his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for something. Courage, perhaps, or acceptance. Battle. Stations, he ordered, and send word to the fleet. We hold this line as long as we can. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Crew members checked and rechecked their systems. Engineers squeezed the last drops of power from the engines. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Laura's voice broke the quiet. Captain, multiple hyperspace signatures detected. The Draxar fleet is arriving. One by one, the enemy ships appeared on their sensors, sleek predatory vessels with distinctive curved hulls that reminded Ryan of sharks. First 10, then 50, then over 100 until the count stopped at exactly 200. They're hailing us, Laura said. Ryan straightened his uniform. On screen. The Draxar ambassador appeared, his gray-scaled skin and vertical pupils marking him as different from the other species in the Dominion. The universal translator converted his hissing speech to English. This is Ambassador Kraz of the Draxar Dominion, he said, mouth stretching in what humans had learned was their version of a smile. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we will allow your civilian ships to leave. Ryan didn't believe him for a second. The Draxar had broken too many promises already. This is Captain Ryan Davis of the United Earth Alliance. This system is under our protection. Turn your fleet around or face the consequences. Empty words, but they were all he had. Ambassador Kraz made a sound that might have been laughter. Very well. You have chosen extinction. The screen went dark. They're moving into attack formation, reported the tactical officer. Weapons charging. Ryan gave the order he'd been dreading. All ships prepare to engage. Priority is protecting the evacuation transports. May God help us all. The human fleet moved forward to meet the enemy. The first shots were fired, beams of energy crossing the void of space. 2 human ships exploded almost immediately, overwhelmed by multiple attackers. Ryan barked orders, trying to coordinate their defense, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with his bare hands. 10 minutes into the battle, they had lost 7 ships. The Draxar had lost none. Captain, Laura shouted over the noise of an exploding console. I'm picking up strange readings at the edge of the system. More Draxar? Ryan asked, heart sinking. No, sir, I'm not sure what it is. The sensors can't make sense of it. Before Ryan could respond, all systems on the bridge flickered. For a heartbeat, everything went dark. When the lights and screens came back on, Ambassador Kraz was on the main view screen again, but this time he hadn't hailed them. What is this? The ambassador demanded, looking off screen at something his own crew was reporting. How did it get past our sensor net? Ryan was about to ask what he meant when Laura gasped. Captain, look. On the tactical display, a new ship had appeared. It had materialized directly between the human fleet and the Draxar forces. It was larger than any human vessel Ryan had ever seen, with sleek lines that marked it as clearly human in design, but unlike anything in service. The ship was dark gray, almost black, absorbing the light of Tau Ceti's sun rather than reflecting it. No running lights, no visible engine glow. It simply hung there, silent and menacing. Is that? Kate whispered. It can't be, Ryan said, but hope was rising in his chest against all reason. The mysterious ship suddenly broadcast on all frequencies, its message reaching every vessel in the system. This is Commander Frank Martinez of the UEA Spectre. We've come to even the odds. The bridge of the Resilient erupted in surprised shouts and confused questions. Ryan stared at the screen, unable to believe what he was seeing and hearing. Ambassador Kraz's face showed an emotion Ryan had never seen on a Draxor before. Fear. Impossible, the ambassador said. Your kind does not possess phase shift technology. Instead of responding verbally, the Spectre sprang into action. It moved with impossible speed, sliding through space as if the normal rules of physics didn't apply. Energy weapons, unlike anything Ryan had seen before, lashed out from its hull, cutting through a Draxar cruiser like it was made of paper. All Earth Alliance vessels, came Commander Martinez's voice again. Form up behind us. We'll clear you. A path to better defensive positions. Ryan hesitated only a moment before giving the order. You heard him. All ships, regroup behind the Spectre. As the human fleet moved, the Spectre continued its attack. 3 more Draxar ships exploded in quick succession. The rest began to fall back, clearly stunned by this unexpected turn of events. They're retreating, Kate said in disbelief. Not retreating, Ryan corrected. Regrouping. They're as surprised as we are. Laura worked frantically at her console. Captain, the Spectre is requesting a secure channel with you personally. Ryan nodded. In my ready room. Route it there. He left the bridge, legs barely steady, enough to carry him. Once inside his private office, he activated the screen. The face that appeared was human, a man perhaps in his 40s with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that looked older than his face. Captain Davis, the man said, I'm Commander Frank Martinez. I apologize for our dramatic entrance, but we needed to make an impression. You succeeded, Ryan said. Is it really the Spectre? The ship that disappeared 15 years ago? Martinez smiled slightly. It is. And we have a lot to tell you about where we've been. But first we need to drive back these Draxar ships. The battle isn't over yet. Ryan had 1,000 questions, but they would have to wait. What do you need from us? Fight alongside us, Martinez said simply. Show these aliens that humanity isn't as helpless as they thought. The screen went dark and Ryan returned to the bridge with renewed purpose. Outside, the legendary ghost ship was proving that sometimes myths come true at exactly the moment they're needed most. The battle raged around them as Captain Ryan Davis and Commander Frank Martinez spoke through the secure channel. The Spectre moved like nothing Ryan had ever seen, appearing almost to blink from one position to another. Where it focused its attacks, Draxar ships fell. We need to speak in person, Martinez said. Request permission to come aboard your vessel. Ryan glanced at the tactical display. The Draxar fleet had pulled back slightly, regrouping after the unexpected arrival of the Spectre. They had a small window of time. Permission granted, Ryan replied. I'll meet you in docking bay 3. 15 minutes later, Ryan stood in the docking bay as a sleek shuttle from the Spectre glided silently through the force field. The shuttle was smaller than standard Alliance designs, but had the same basic shape. Its surface seemed to shift, slightly, as if it couldn't decide what color it wanted to be. The shuttle's door opened and Commander Martinez stepped out. In person, he looked even more weathered than on the screen. Behind him came 2 more officers, a man and a woman, both with the same hardened look in their eyes. Captain Davis, Martinez said, extending his hand. Thank you for meeting us. Ryan shook the offered hand. I think I should be thanking you. Your arrival changed what was going to be our last stand. Martinez nodded grimly. We came as fast as we could when we picked up the signals about the attack, but we have more to discuss than just this battle. Ryan led them to a secure conference room. As they walked, crew members stopped and stared. Word had spread quickly about the Spectre's arrival, and everyone wanted a glimpse of its mysterious crew. Once they were seated behind closed doors, Martinez introduced his companions. This is Major Ben Hawkins, my tactical officer, and Dr. Linda Harrison, our chief scientist. I have 1,000 questions, Ryan said, starting with where you've been for 15 years and how your ship can do what it does. Martinez exchanged glances with his officers. I'll give you the short version now. 15 years ago, the Spectre wasn't lost accidentally, it was sent away deliberately. Sent away? Ryan leaned forward. By whom? A small group of high-ranking officials who saw this war coming long before anyone else, Martinez explained. They knew humanity wasn't ready, technologically or strategically. They needed intelligence about what was out there, and they needed advances that we couldn't develop quickly enough at home. Dr. Harrison spoke up. The ship was built with experimental technology, yes, but it was only the beginning. We were sent to learn, adapt, and improve, to go beyond what Earth scientists thought possible. And you've spent 15 years doing that, just exploring space? Ryan couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. Major Hawkins shook his head. Not just exploring, we had a mission, to gather intelligence on the species that were threatening human expansion. We've been watching the Draxar for a long time. And what we discovered, Martinez continued, is that the Draxar Dominion isn't what it appears to be. The 7 species in their alliance aren't natural allies. They've been manipulated, forced together by an 8th species that stays hidden. Ryan sat back, trying to absorb this information. Who is this 8th species? They call themselves the Architects, Dr. Harrison said. They're shapeshifters, able to take on the appearance of other species. They've been manipulating civilizations across this sector of the galaxy for centuries. Why? Ryan asked. What do they want? Control, Martinez said simply. They prevent any one species from becoming too powerful by setting them against each other. Humanity's rapid expansion into space threatened their system of balance. A loud explosion rocked the ship, cutting their conversation short. Ryan activated the communication panel on the table. Bridge, report. The Draxar are attacking again, sir, came Kate's voice. They've brought in reinforcements. We now count over 300 enemy vessels. Martinez stood immediately. I need to get back to the Spectre. Wait, Ryan said. You still haven't explained how your ship does what it does or how we're supposed to fight against these architects. We don't have time for the full explanation, Martinez replied. But I can show you part of it. He turned to Dr. Harrison. Linda, contact the Spectre. Tell them to send Chief Engineer Barnes over with the integration modules. Dr. Harrison nodded and stepped aside to use her communicator. Martinez turned back to Ryan. Captain, we can temporarily upgrade some of your ship's systems to work with ours. It won't give you everything the Spectre has, but it will help even the odds further. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. Do it, Ryan said. Within minutes, a second shuttle arrived from the Spectre carrying Chief Engineer Olivia Barnes and a team of technicians. Barnes was a stocky woman with short gray hair and hands that moved with precise efficiency. We need access to your engine room and weapons control, she said without preamble. Ryan ordered his own chief engineer to escort them. Give them whatever they need. As the engineers rushed off, Ryan and Martinez returned to the bridge. The situation had worsened. 3 more human ships had been destroyed, and the rest were taking heavy damage. The Spectre can't be everywhere at once, Martinez said, looking at the tactical display. But with your ships upgraded, we can create a defensive formation that might hold. Might? Ryan asked. Martinez met his eyes. This isn't the final battle, Captain. It's just the beginning of a new phase in the war. Down in the engine room, Chief Engineer Barnes worked with incredible speed. She connected small devices to the ship's main systems, devices unlike anything the Earth engineers had seen before. These modules create a quantum entanglement between your systems and the Spectres, she explained as she worked. Your weapons will be guided by our targeting systems. Your shields will adapt like ours do. How is that possible? Asked the resilience engineer. Quantum entanglement across different ships? Barnes smiled grimly. 15 years is a long time to innovate when you're not bound by conventional thinking. She pointed to a small crystal at the center of one module. This isn't technology as you understand it. It's consciousness-guided. It responds to the thoughts and intentions of its users. The ship's engineer stared in disbelief. That's not possible. A lot of things we thought were impossible turned out to be just difficult, Barnes replied. She finished connecting the last module. There, power it up. As soon as the system activated, everyone in the engine room felt a subtle shift. It wasn't physical, more like a change in the air pressure or a sound just below the range of hearing. On the bridge, Ryan noticed the change too. The ship felt different somehow, more responsive, more alive. "What just happened?" he asked. Martinez smiled slightly. "Your ship just joined the conversation." "I don't understand." "You will." Martinez stepped forward. "May I?" Ryan nodded and Martinez placed his hands on the tactical controls. Immediately the display changed, showing information in formats Ryan had never seen before. The weapon systems came online with a hum that sounded almost eager. "Target the lead Draxar vessel," Martinez ordered. The weapons officer complied, and when the Resilient fired, the beam was not the standard blue energy pulse but a swirling mixture of colors that cut through the enemy ship's shields as if they weren't there. "How?" Ryan began. "Their shields are designed to stop energy at specific frequencies," Martinez explained. "Our weapons shift frequency constantly. They can't adapt quickly enough." Throughout the human fleet, similar upgrades were being installed. Ships that had been on the verge of destruction were suddenly back in the fight, their weapons effective in ways they hadn't been before. Back on Earth, Security Director Nathan Clark sat in a darkened office, scrolling through classified files he wasn't supposed to have access to. What he found made his blood run cold. The Spectre project hadn't been canceled due to a failure or accident. It had been deliberately sent away, and the person who had arranged it all, Admiral Helen Reed, had left a final message before her death 3 years ago. "If you're seeing this," her recorded image said, "then the Spectre has returned. Thank God. We couldn't tell anyone the truth. They had infiltrated too many levels of our government. The architects are among us and only the Spectre can help us fight them." The upgraded human fleet fought with renewed strength. Ships that had been moments from destruction now held their own against the Draxar vessels. The Spectre moved through the battle like a ghost, appearing where it was needed most, its weapons tearing through enemy shields and hulls. On Earth, Security Director Nathan Clark worked frantically to spread Admiral Helen Reed's warning. He sent encoded messages to trusted officials and military leaders. The architects had infiltrated Earth's government. Some of the people making decisions about the war might not even be human. In space, Captain Ryan Davis and Commander Frank Martinez developed a new plan. They couldn't just win this battle. They needed to break the Draxar alliance itself. "We need to get to the Draxar command ship," Martinez explained on the bridge of the Resilient. "The architect controlling their fleet will be there, manipulating their leaders." Ryan studied the tactical display. The massive Draxar command vessel hung at the back of their formation, surrounded by layers of defensive ships. "Even with our upgrades, we can't fight through all of that," Ryan said. Martinez smiled. "We won't have to. The Spectre can take us directly there." "How?" "Phase shift technology," Martinez said. "It's how we appeared in the middle of the battle. We can move through subspace, bypassing normal space entirely." Chief Engineer Barnes, who had stayed aboard the Resilient to monitor the upgrades, shook her head. "The Spectre can do that, but this ship can't." "Not the whole ship," Martinez agreed, "but a small strike team could go aboard the Spectre phase shift to the Draxar command vessel and disable their control systems." Ryan considered this. "I should lead the strike team." "We'll both go," Martinez said, "and we'll need someone who understands their technology." Barnes raised her hand. "That would be me." Ryan turned to his first officer. "Kate, you'll have command of the Resilient. Keep the fleet fighting as long as you can." Kate nodded, her face grim. "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, aboard the UEA Defender, Commander Alice Warren received an urgent message from Proxima B. Samantha Hughes had made another discovery. The signal wasn't just an announcement, Samantha explained, her image flickering on the screen. It contained embedded code, instructions, for disrupting the architect's control devices. "How did you figure this out?" Alice asked. "I didn't," Samantha admitted. "Someone named Lieutenant Miller contacted me. He said you'd shown him my report. He helped me decode the rest of the message." Alice smiled slightly. Jack Miller had been right all along about the Spectre. "Send the complete code to me immediately," she ordered. "Then get on the next transport to the Tau Ceti system. We need your decryption skills there. Across the system, the battle continued to rage. The human fleet was holding its own now, but they couldn't keep fighting forever. The Draxar still outnumbered them, and reinforcements kept arriving. On the Spectre, Ryan marveled at the ship's interior. It looked both familiar and alien, recognizably human in design, but incorporating technologies he'd never seen before. The bridge was smaller than he expected, with stations that seemed designed to respond to thought as much as touch. "The strike team is ready," reported Major Hawkins. "We can phase shift whenever you give the word, Commander." Martinez nodded. "The target is the central control room of the Draxar command vessel. According to our intelligence, that's where the architect will be." "How will we know which one is the architect?" Ryan asked. "You said they're shapeshifters." Dr. Harrison handed him a small device. "This scanner can detect their unique biological signature. They can mimic appearances, but not cellular structure." Ryan took the device. "And once we find the architect, we use this," Martinez said, holding up what looked like a simple metal cylinder. "It emits a frequency that disrupts their control over other species. Once that happens, the Draxar leaders will be able to think clearly for the first time in years." The strike team, 12 people in total, gathered in what Martinez called the phase chamber. It was a circular room with walls that seemed to shift and move, like the surface of the shuttle Ryan had seen earlier. "Everyone ready?" Martinez asked. Ryan checked his weapon, a standard Alliance blaster that had been modified by the Spectre's engineers. "Ready? Phase shift in 3, 2, 1. The world around them blurred, then vanished. Ryan felt a sensation like falling, but in all directions at once. His stomach lurched, and he fought the urge to close his eyes. Then, just as suddenly, they were somewhere else. A large, dimly lit chamber filled with control panels and alien technology. Several Draxar officers turned in surprise, reaching for weapons. "Now!" Martinez shouted. The strike team moved with practiced efficiency. Half of them secured the room, stunning the Draxar officers with weapons set to non-lethal levels. The rest established a defensive perimeter. Ryan activated the scanner and swept it around the room. It beeped when he pointed it at what appeared to be a Draxar communications officer. "There," he said. "That's the architect." The disguised architect realized it had been discovered. Its form rippled and changed, shifting from Draxar appearance to something else. A tall, slender being with pale skin that seemed to glow from within. "You cannot stop us," it said, its voice vibrating strangely in the air. "We have guided these species for centuries. Without us, there would be chaos." "You mean without your control?" Martinez replied. "You've been manipulating them, turning them against each other, and against us." The architect moved with impossible speed, knocking 2 team members aside and lunging for Martinez. Ryan fired his weapon, but the beam passed through the creature as if it were made of light. "Physical weapons cannot harm me," the architect said. Martinez smiled grimly. "Good thing we brought more than physical weapons." He activated the metal cylinder, which emitted a high-pitched sound that made Ryan's teeth ache. The architect screamed, its form becoming unstable, shifting rapidly between different appearances. At that moment, a voice came over Ryan's communicator. "Captain Davis, this is Samantha Hughes. I'm aboard the Resilient with Lieutenant Miller. We've decoded the signal from the Spectre. It contains instructions for a system-wide broadcast that will disrupt all architect-controlled devices at once." "Do it," Ryan ordered. Back on the Resilient, Samantha and Lieutenant Miller worked frantically to prepare the broadcast. Kate Wilson, now in command, gave them everything they needed. "Broadcasting now," Samantha reported. Throughout the Draxar fleet, something strange began to happen. Ships stopped firing. Some drifted out of formation. Communications channels filled with confused and angry voices as the Draxar realized they had been manipulated. In the control room of the command vessel, the architect collapsed to the floor, its form shifting uncontrollably. "What have you done?" it gasped. "Freed them from your control," Martinez said. "Now let's see what they decide to do about it." One of the Draxar officers, the ship's commander, slowly got to his feet. The strike team tensed, weapons ready, But the Draxar didn't attack. Instead, he looked at the architect with hatred in his reptilian eyes. "For generations you have used us," he said. "Made us fight your wars, kill for your purposes." He turned to Martinez and Ryan. "We have no quarrel with humans. Our quarrel is with those who have enslaved our minds." Martinez stepped forward. "Then perhaps we can help each other." The Draxar commander hesitated, then nodded. "Perhaps." The architect laughed, a strange, echoing sound. "You think this is over? I am only one of many. The others will come for you all." "Let them come," Martinez said. "We'll be ready." Hours later, aboard the Spectre, Ryan stood with Martinez and Alice Warren, who had arrived from the Defender. Through the viewport, they could see the Draxar fleet now positioned alongside the human vessels. An uneasy alliance, but an alliance, nonetheless. "It's only the beginning," Martinez warned. "The other architects will fight back. They've been controlling this sector of the galaxy for too long to give it up easily." "But now we know they exist," Alice said, "and we have the technology to fight them." "Speaking of which," Ryan said, "what happens to the Spectre now?" Martinez looked out at the stars. "She's coming home as promised. Earth needs her technology, her knowledge. We've learned too much to keep it to ourselves any longer." As they spoke, engineers from Earth's fleet swarmed over the damaged hull of the legendary ship, making repairs, studying its systems, preparing it for the journey back to the planet it had left 15 years ago. On Earth, Admiral Collins looked at the reports coming in from the Tau Ceti system with disbelief and hope. The myth had become reality. Humanity had found new allies, and his brother's project had come home at last, bringing with it the one thing they needed most: a real chance to win the war.